Chair recognizes our great chairman over here, Hayden Ratner, of the Committee on Order of Business, to make a motion.
My bad, Mr. President, but thank you for giving this space to the Committee on Order of Business, and welcome everybody to the after lunch session. Come on, just stretch out a little bit, get a little bit of energy, because we gotta finish strong. I am elated and Starbucks caffeinated, ready to finish up today. The Committee on Order of Business moves to extend the time for previously scheduled business by an extra 15 minutes. We also move that each item of business previously scheduled receives 6 minutes each for discussion, so that each one that goes during these minutes would have 6 minutes each to present. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion is to extend the time for this block of previously scheduled business by 15 minutes and also to limit debate to 6 minutes each per each item of discussion. And so is there, we're going to check and see how you feel about that. Is anybody object to that, or can we take that by unanimous consent? Okay, hearing no objection, and it is so ordered, and the time is extended. Now, Alan, microphone 8A. Alan, is that you?
Yes, it is.
All
My name
right.
is Alan Featherstone, messenger from Mosaic Church in Provo, Utah, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to my motion. Just to clarify, my motion is not seeking to necessarily revise our current statement of faith, the Baptist Faith and Message 2000, though revision may be a starting point for this process, but rather to consider the writing of a new edition of the Baptist Faith and Message. Myself, our church leaders, and church members affirm the Baptist Faith and Message 2000. The heart of my motion is not because I find issue with the BFM 2000, but given the recent increase of amendments to the BFM 2000, the need for clarity in certain sections of the current BFM, the progressive nature of our culture, and coming up on 30 years since the last edition of the Baptist Faith and Message, it might be wise to have a blue ribbon committee consider the need for the process of and writing of a new edition of the Baptist Faith and Message.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Are you sure you're the same crowd that's been here the last 4 sessions? We'll proceed to the vote. The question before you is on the motion by Alan Featherstone. And so, if you are in favor, would you indicate by lifting your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. As many as are opposed, would you indicate by lifting your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed have it, and the motion is lost. The next motion, second item of business, is the motion made by Sean Dennis, as presented on the screen. Sean, if you will press the other button on the mob box and let us know where you are, we will recognize you to speak to your motion. Microphone 3A. Sean, is that you?
It is, yes.
All right.
Sean Dennis, messenger of Vine Street Baptist Church. Crazy uncle, perhaps. And I rise this afternoon to speak in favor of the motion that I filed yesterday because I have gotten a little bit crazy waiting for an outcome from this body, or the task force, I should say. We asked for it 2 years ago in Anaheim. We came for that reason, to show our support of victims of sexual abuse. We wanted to send a clear message that things were going to change in the Southern Baptist Convention. Friends, I'm very excited about this. As chairman of the deacons of our church, we're taking this back. We're going to implement it. We are so thankful for the work that has been done. So please understand, the motion that I bring before you is not in any way meant to be hostile to the good work that has been done in good faith by our brothers and sisters. I actually prepared some remarks before the convention started, and it sounds a little bit like maybe I was plagiarizing from our brother Joshua Western. That's not the case. I ask you to bear with me and know that it might sound a little bit redundant. Galatians 6:9 says in part, "Let us not grow weary of doing good." When we go to SBCabuseprevention.com and read the FAQ on the ARITF's 2024 report and recommendations, we see plainly the priority of their three good and necessary key priorities. But we also see something else. We see a weariness. Words like, quote, "no longer a viable pathway for robust abuse reform," end quote. That should cause us to question whether there really isn't a path to do that which is good and right. And then there's this sentence: "The SBC is the largest Protestant body in the United States and has no meaningful plan to help its churches prevent or respond to abuse." Brothers and sisters, this should not be. We need a root cause analysis to understand why there is a weariness.
Discussion has elapsed. Microphone 5A. Microphone 10A. Please state your name, your church, and you wish to speak against the motion, we understand.
No, amendment.
You wish to make an amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Shane Dismuke. I'm the messenger from First Baptist Church, Caldwell, Texas. And I would like to amend this where he has no budget and actually ask the convention to allocate the money from Send Relief that was allocated last year for this purpose.
Is there a second? Please hold for just a second. Stand at ease. So I'm sorry, but your amendment actually is not in order because we can't direct Send Relief to do something with money. They're an independent entity, and this convention cannot instruct them to move money.
With all due respect, we instructed them last year, and according to the Abuse Reform Task Force, they did not get the money they were instructed to give.
So, and with all due respect, your motion is just not in order, and we'll have to rule it that way. Thank you. Microphone 5A, do you wish to speak against the motion?
Yes.
Okay, please state your name and your church.
Kevin Short, Crittenden Baptist Church, Crittenden, Kentucky. I'm not sure this is even necessary, given the fact that we just received a report from the task force. There are a lot of difficult issues involved in sexual abuse. They include not only the rights of victims, but the rights of those that are accused or possibly falsely accused. This can create a lot of tensions and a lot of difficulties, and at some point, we have to trust that the task force we appointed has done their best with wisdom to navigate those hurdles. I think we need time to allow what they've brought us forward to be used and to see if it works or not. Thank you.
The time for consideration of this item is expired, and so we will proceed to the vote. Motion before you is the motion by Sean Dennis, as presented on the screen. As many as are in favor of the adoption of the motion, would you please list your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. As many as are opposed, would you please lift your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed have it, and the motion is lost. The third item of business is the motion made by Michael Sherwood, as presented on the screen. Michael, we're looking for you. Please press the other button on the mob box at the microphone nearest you. Microphone 3A. Is that you, Michael?
Yes, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Michael Sherwood, messenger from Gore Springs Baptist Church, Gore Springs, Mississippi. Brothers and sisters, before I proceed to speak to my motion, please grant me the opportunity to say that I love our nation. I am grateful for the unique religious liberties afforded in our nation for me to even make this motion and for us to discuss it. So my motion is not to be understood as a repudiation of our nation, nor our shared values of patriotism, honoring our veterans, or cherishing the memory of those who have selflessly given their lives for our nation. Instead, my motion is a concern for our testimony as believers in Jesus Christ. This and every year, we gather as messengers from Southern Baptist churches. That is, we gather as ambassadors from embassies of a kingdom that is not of this world. And as messengers, we have repeatedly spoken with great clarity. Our allegiance is and must always be to the Lord Jesus Christ. He is our brother, but he is also our king. Christ is Lord. That has been the confession of every Christian since the day of Pentecost. It has been a costly confession. It was a treasonous confession at one time. To confess Jesus as Lord was to boldly deny that Caesar was Lord. Our earliest brothers and sisters were martyred en masse for that confession of Jesus as Lord, and many across the globe continue to be martyred for it. And so with that in mind, I would ask us to consider what words the Apostle James might have for the Jerusalem Council if they had opened by pledging their allegiance to Rome. What words might the Apostle Paul have had for a gathering of church elders if they began their meeting by raising a banner, placing their hands over their hearts, and saying the words, "I pledge allegiance to this image and to the empire for which it stands"? I believe he would say something similar to what he wrote in Philippians chapter 3, "We are citizens of heaven." Brothers and sisters, we are sojourners and strangers in this world. This world is not our home, and this nation, as good as it is not our hope. We just sang, "Christ is our hope." And so I ask you to support my motion to cease the practice of pledging our allegiance to any earthly kingdom at this annual meeting. Like you, I am thankful for this nation. So let's pray for those who are in authority. Let's work to seek the welfare of the land in which we live. But let us reserve our allegiance for Christ alone. Thank you.
Microphone 6A. You wish to speak against the motion?
Yes, sir, I do.
Please state your name and your church and proceed.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lieutenant John Baccarosa. I'm from Citizens Church in Annapolis, Maryland. So I'm a Lieutenant United States Navy, and I lead with that title to just honestly and openly convey to you all my personal stake in this discussion. Allegiance is a virtue that matters deeply to me, and I believe it should matter to you too. Allegiance is loyalty. It's commitment to a cause, dedicated commitment to a cause. When we pledge allegiance to the flag and our republic, we declare loyalty to the values and the ideals this nation stands for. We do not do so in contradiction to our loyalty to the Word of God. Rather, our allegiance to our nation is strengthened and resolved according to our faith. Indeed, as mentioned by my brother Michael, our very presence and liberty to even hold this convention are secured through the principles and ideals of this great nation. It is a noble goal to preserve and promote reverence for the city of God over the city of man. If the argument at stake is supremacy, rest assured, I am in wholehearted agreement of the eternal and perfect supremacy of the pursuit of the kingdom of God over any earthly kingdom, including my own country, which I love. The United States is a beautiful and exceptional experiment, unequal in human history, but I am in complete agreement that it will one day end in dust, like every great earthly kingdom before it. Our discussion today and this motion is not a discussion of God's kingdom being greater than the United States of America, but rather recognition that the United States itself is only great when it is a nation conformed to the principles of God's word. When we pledge allegiance to the flag in our republic, we declare at this convention and before our nation that we seek to serve God by faithfully serving this country. We stood yesterday and cited our nation's Pledge of Allegiance, specifically, and as far as I understand, the only time at this convention, during the honoring of our chaplains. I'm not a chaplain, but I have been faithfully counseled by and have served with many God-fearing chaplains across multiple services. There is not enough time in this convention or the 50 seconds I have left to tell you of the blessing and necessity of chaplains in our services. Those chaplains who have dedicated themselves as vocational servants faithfully serve God and their country. They sacrifice for God and their country. Their families sacrifice for God and their country. When we honor them at this convention, we honor their service to God and their country. When we pledge allegiance to the flag in our republic, we declare loyalty and support for our chaplains and their families and their noble service and sacrifice. In summary, it is honorable and right to faithfully dedicate ourselves to the work of the great kingdom. And it is not contradictory, but it is equally honorable and right to dedicate ourselves to the keeping of our earthly kingdom. I implore you all to vote against this motion and preserve respect and honor for my country, to which I owe much and to which I thank God for his great providence and goodness. Thank you.
Microphone 1A, do you have a request?
I have a point of inquiry.
Okay.
My name's Chris Garner, messenger from Holly Grove Baptist Church in Bells, Tennessee. My question is, does this motion only apply to this convention or all subsequent conventions?
Just a moment, we'll get you an answer. It's our interpretation that this would be instructional to the Committee on an Order of Business for future sessions of the Southern Baptist Convention annual meeting.
Would that not require a bylaw change?
No, it would not require a bylaw change just to give information to the Committee on Order of Business about the vote of this year's session.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so it's time for us to proceed to the vote because the time for consideration of this item has expired. The question before you is on Michael Sherwood's motion as presented on the screen. As many as are in favor, would you indicate by lifting your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. As many as are opposed, would you indicate by lifting your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed have it, and the motion is lost. In a moment, we're going to go to our fourth item of business, which is the motion made by Benjamin Cole to reconsider a previous motion. And before we do that, I want to tell you that if you have the SBC meeting app, the annual meeting app, in response to the motion that was made in the previous session, you will find that all of the prayer requests related to the IMB missionaries who were commissioned in the first session have been published in the SBC annual meeting app. Very thankful to the communications department of the EC who've made that happen. The fourth item of business is the motion made by Benjamin Cole as presented on the screen. The chair recognizes Benjamin Cole to speak to his motion. Please press the other button on the mob box and we will find you. Microphone 3A, is that you, Ben?
Yes, sir, it is.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. My motion sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple, and it's anticipated and provided for in the SBC Business and Financial Plan. Article 6, Section A of the Business and Financial Plan provides that no entity of the Southern Baptist Convention shall conduct any type of fundraising activity without the advance approval of the convention or its executive committee. The rule provides only two exceptions, the Lottie Moon Christmas offering and the Annie Armstrong Easter offering. The ERLC will receive 1.65% of all cooperative program receipts in next year's allocation budget, and it's nearly 100% dependent upon CP for its funding. And while this is a generous commitment from Southern Baptist churches, if our churches are expecting ERLC to exert lobbying influence in Washington, D.C., we may as well dump a thimbleful of holy water straight into hell. That is a pittance compared to the work we are asking it to do. So maybe that's not its primary focus. So let this convention be clear. No entity is entitled to cooperative program dollars. And when they receive them, they are not exempt from the reporting requirements required by the Business and Financial Plan. So, Mr. President, I'm aware that the motion to reconsider is rarely employed, and it should be used sparingly. Robert's Rules gives a few reasons. One of those is new information arises. So here's some new information. A tremendous and growing number of our churches and messengers just voted to abolish the ERLC. And while that vote came up short, it should have surprised us all. We have gotten to this point. When Mike Stone led his investigation of the ERLC, I was dubious because of the networks that had formed amid that effort. When ERLC trustee John Whitehead began speaking out against matters internal to ERLC, I was skeptical because it was being advertised and broadcast with my brothers with whom I disagree. Even when my own church voted to escrow these dollars, I disagreed. But I must confess, my pastor was right and I was wrong. Brothers and sisters, all this does is say Southern Baptists expect to know the sources of funding that are coming into ERLC if we are going to continue committing cooperative program dollars. I urge you to reconsider and support the underlying motion.
Microphone 5A, do you wish to speak against the motion to reconsider?
Yes, Mr. President.
Please state your name and your church and proceed.
My name is Tony Beam. I'm from First Baptist Church, North Spartanburg in Spartanburg, South Carolina. This motion, which targets the most cooperative program-dependent entity, does not need to be brought out on a day when this body has already recognized the importance of the ERLC's work. It is an attempt to undermine the effectiveness of the ERLC, but more than that, it has the potential to affect other entities' ability to raise the funds necessary for carrying out their ministry assignments. As the Baptist Faith and Message Article 15 articulates, Baptists are and have been those who work together with all men of goodwill on any good cause, always being careful to act in the spirit of love without compromising their loyalty to Christ and His truth. That's exactly what the ERLC has done for over 20 years through an initiative called the Psalm 139 Project, which places ultrasound machines in crisis pregnancy centers all around the country and all around the world. Our life-saving ministry has enjoyed strong partnerships from not only our churches, but also our state conventions and associations. Over 90 machines have been placed since the initiative started, and there have been 60 since 2021. You may not know this, but the money to fund those machines does not come from the ERLC's cooperative program funding. The ERLC uses 100% of the donations given to the Psalm 139 project to cover the cost of these machines. Not a dime goes to the ERLC. If we restrict the ERLC from raising outside funds, we're cutting off their mechanism for helping local churches and pregnancy resource centers and state conventions from saving thousands of lives. Friends, we cannot let this happen. If this motion passes, none of those machines would have been possible. And beyond the Psalm 139 project, as the culture continues to move more aggressively to press against a biblical worldview, the ERLC needs to expand its resources and advocacy in the marketplace of ideas and in the halls of government. In a day when abortion pills are arriving by mail and the LGBTQ activists are confusing our children on matters of gender and sexuality, this is not the time to limit the ERLC's voice in the public square. Thank you.
Microphone 3A, do you wish to speak in favor of the motion to reconsider?
Yes.
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
President.
but the time for consideration of this motion has expired and had done so really before I even recognized you, so I'm sorry, that's my bad. So we're going to proceed to the question. I may need to clarify for you what you're voting on. You're voting on a motion to reconsider. So in other words, a motion that was made and closed, you're voting on whether to open that motion up again. The motion that you're voting on whether to open up again is not the motion that Benjamin Cole made. It's the motion to refer that. So if you vote in favor of reconsidering, then we will immediately move to consider the motion to refer. And then if you pass the motion to refer, it would be referred just like it is now. But if you fail the motion to refer, then it would need to be scheduled for consideration. So right now, the motion before you is just a vote on whether you want to open up that motion to refer again or leave it the way it is. As many as are in favor of opening up that motion to refer again, would you please lift your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. As many as are opposed, would you indicate by lifting your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed have it, and the motion is lost. The chair recognizes Hayden Ratner from the Committee on Order of Business for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Order of Business moves to allow for 10 more minutes for the Resolutions Committee to report at this time in the schedule.
As many of you as are in favor of creating a 10-minute slot here for the Resolutions Committee to continue their report, would you indicate by lifting your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. As many as are opposed, would you indicate by lifting your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. Those in favor have it. The motion carries. And the chair recognizes Kristen Ferguson, the chair of the Committee on Resolutions, for a report.
Thank you so much for giving us a little more time. Thank you very much. My name is Kristen Ferguson from 11th Street Baptist Church in Upland, California, and I move that the convention adopt resolution number 6 on the ethical realities of reproductive technologies and the dignity of the human embryo. You will find this resolution on page 13 of the Wednesday SBC Bulletin.
And the reason I'm up here asking her, what did you just do, is because I was receiving other information. I want to encourage you not to leave because there's going to be a runoff in the election for second vice president. So we're going to be balloting again for second vice president. We're not ready for that now. This announcement is not taking away from their time, but we have moved the adoption of this resolution, and now we ask, is there any discussion? Microphone 3A, would you give us your name, your church, and proceed with your discussion?
Yes, Daniel Taylor, messenger from Charity Baptist Church, Paris, Michigan. I have an amendment to the motion I'd like to move, which I already pre-filed. My amendment reads, 1, in the 8th whereas paragraph, insert the words applications of between the words not all and technological means. And 2, in the 9th whereas paragraph, replace the words the use with the word applications and the word disregards with disregard. And 3, in the 10th whereas paragraph, replace the words routinely creates with may create. And 4, In the 11th whereas paragraph, replace the words increasingly engages with may engage. And 5, in the first resolved paragraph, insert the words in a manner between the words reproductive technologies and consistent with. And finally, 6, in the third resolved paragraph, delete the words which necessarily includes frozen embryonic human beings. If this motion receives a second, I would like to speak in favor of it.
Is there a second? Yes, go ahead and speak in favor of your motion.
That was my wife who seconded from the back there. Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak in favor of this amendment out of both a heart for the unborn and for those stricken with infertility, like two friends of mine, a God-fearing Christian couple who ethically and morally used in vitro fertilization, or IVF, at great sacrifice and expense to themselves, driven by the love of a child not yet born, their son and my godson. When a human embryo is created, either through sexual intercourse or IVF, it can be either viable or non-viable. Viable embryos are structurally and genetically capable of surviving to term and being born alive. Non-viable embryos are not. 10 to 20% of all natural pregnancies are non-viable, which we often call miscarriages. Depending on the state of pregnancy at which the miscarriage occurs, the mother may not even be aware that she was pregnant at all. Non-viable embryos produced by IVF are not implanted in the womb because there is no chance of their successful gestation. For my friends, the initial steps of IVF yielded 6 viable embryos. 2 rounds of painful and expensive implantation followed, in which 4 of the embryos were implanted and 2 were frozen for a time. Of those original 4, only 1 survived to term, their son and my godson. Each implantation was a painful procedure for the mother, who told me afterwards that it was one of the hardest things she had ever been through. If the love of a child not yet born had not been motivating her, she would not have gone through with it. The child who was born was a gift from God, loved by his parents and their friends. I can testify that his parents are raising him in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. His life has so enriched us all. I cannot believe we are privileged to have him in our lives. Because of him, I thank God for IVF. But what of the remaining 2 embryos? For my friends, there was no question of what to do. After the mother had healed, and in spite of the knowledge she had of the pain of the IVF procedure, she had both remaining embryos implanted. Out of a desire for another child, yes, but also out of a respect for their innate dignity. I request this resolution be amended because, in its original form, the resolution would castigate and condemn the entirely moral and ethical actions of these 2 friends of mine, calling their faithful sacrifice, struggle, and blessing a wicked thing. It would also unnecessarily make it more difficult for all of us to reach those who have gone through IVF as parents or children. I'm sure many of you know such people. I urge you to join me in affirming the ethical use of IVF while condemning its misuse by supporting the amendments to the motion.
Would the committee like to respond?
Yes, please. Yeah, brother, thank you so much for giving us this story that we can use to make sure that we are all addressing this topic with the utmost sensitivity. I know that it is our goal as people who want to share the love of Christ to not take this topic lightly. And we want to make sure that we're speaking carefully about it. I just ask that if you would notice, resolve number 6 was added to ensure that we commend couples who at great cost have sought to only utilize infertility treatments and reproductive technologies in ways that are consistent with the dignity of the human embryo. We did consider this factor, and I'm not trying to be insensitive to this story, but we definitely attempted to consider that, so we do not at this time consider it a friendly amendment.
Microphone 2A, would you like to speak against the amendment?
Yes.
Please give your name and your church and proceed.
My name is Monica Hall, and I'm a messenger from Oak Grove Baptist Church in Paducah, Kentucky. I was going to speak in favor of the resolution, but it applies in this case too. I would speak against this amendment. I thank the authors of the resolution and the committee for the opportunity for the SBC to be a voice of biblical truth and clarity in this pressing cultural issue. In addition to my living children, I am the mother of 4 babies that I never got to hold. 2 of those babies we adopted as embryos. They were created in a lab, frozen, left over from someone else's IVF cycle, donated, thawed, and then transferred into my womb, where they died before I could even hear their hearts beating. Those are chilling phrases to describe a human being created in the image of God. The SBC is known for our strong defense of the sanctity of human life. Nothing in the process of IVF upholds the sanctity of life. There is no way to describe the treatment of embryos at any point in the IVF process as ethical or dignified. The only possible ethical stance on IVF is to advocate for more Christian couples to be willing to give the 1+ million embryos in freezers a chance at dignity and life by adopting them. The 2 frozen embryos we adopted, now my children, did not live. Sadly, the truth is that most embryos created through IVF die at some point in the process. How could it be considered ethical to create human life knowing death is a probability? My babies died, but I'm so thankful that they lived for a few days in the womb and were, and still are, fiercely loved and cherished, and they didn't die in a freezer. I pray that more Christians will see the truth presented here and advocate for the freezing of embryos to stop, and also rise up to adopt the embryos in limbo in the freezers. Thank you.
Microphone 10A, you wish to speak in favor of the amendment?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please state your name, your church, and proceed.
My name is Zach Sahadik. I am a messenger from the First Baptist Church of Fairborn, Ohio. I was told the echo wasn't bad here, and that was a lie. I have a son because of IVF. I have another son, 20 weeks old, in my wife's womb because of IVF. And I have 10 embryos that I love, and with every bit of my being, we will have or see born into a Christian family. And no one can stop us from making that disposition. I am for the sanctity of life and for the sanctity of embryos. I am against the idea that this technology is so wicked that it cannot be employed. And so I would urge you to think about the language of this resolution and this amendment. I think this amendment seeks to affirm those Christian couples that are trying to use this technology to grow their family, to grow the church, and all of it trusting in God's sovereignty to give or take away life. I yield the rest of my time.
Well, that's generous of you to do, but the time has expired for consideration of this item, and therefore we will proceed to vote first on the amendment and then on the resolution. The question before you now is on whether to amend this resolution as has been proposed and is demonstrated on the screen. If you are in favor of amending the resolution in this way, please lift your ballots. Thank you. You may lower them. If you're opposed to amending the resolution in this way, please lift your ballots. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed have it, and the amendment is lost. We now are at the question on the adoption of the resolution. As many as are in favor of adopting the resolution, would you indicate by lifting your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. As many as are opposed, would you indicate by lifting your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. The ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. Microphone 6A, please state your urgent request.
No.
No. Okay, there's nothing there. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, that's the time.
All right, so we have concluded our time. We did not make it through all of our resolutions, but wanted to do so, but we also have run out of time. And so now we're going to proceed to some entity reports, and I need my iPad. Okay, we do have now, while our entities prepare to give their report, we do have the results of that second vice presidential ballot. And so we're going to give you the results of that ballot and instructions for marking a runoff ballot. Chair, okay, microphone 3A, would you please state your name, your church, and your point of order?
Hi, yes, James, Living Water Baptist Church, Sardis, Ohio. This will be real quick. We passed Resolution 10 in a batch, and we just didn't take the time to appreciate Indianapolis, and I just wanted to give them a hand.
Your point of order is not well taken, but we are very appreciative.